Welcome to Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. I'm glad to have you guys back. And like you know what we say on every episode, please like, subscribe, and share this episode if you know somebody that will get value from it and that can really gain some gems and some value that they can, help improve their life. Also, guys, leave us a review if you get if you have any kind of experience from, Champ Talk, whether it's, something that was really impactful or something that we could do better or whatever have you. You know what I mean? We're always looking to hear your feedback and your input. So the best way to do that is leave us a review. And again, we value what you say, guys. Champ Talk is done for the people, man. We're here for the people. So let's get right into it. It's another solo episode, as you can see or hear. Alex Harmon just dropped this brilliant marketing event. Sold, I believe, like $80 million last time I checked over the weekend. And, and if you guys are listening to this, it may be a weekend or two ahead of when it actually did and when you guys are hearing it. But brilliant marketing strategy. He sold $80 million worth of books. Alex Harmon, if you don't know who he is the guy who kind of did the gym launch thing. He was able to, he's the ads that you get, we can increase, 30 members this month and things like that. And really successful entrepreneur. He's one of the goats in the industry, in the space. And, it's cool. And it's got the internet buzzing. Everybody is going in, as far as like what he's done and all that good stuff and, how it's so brilliant and this. And I totally 110% agree with him. He's definitely a brilliant marketer. He definitely knows what he's doing. He's got it, man. What I'm struggling with is not necessarily Alex Harmon. It's all of the content, all of the people that are out here talking about how great he is and how you need to implement this into your business and how you need to do this and how you need to do that. We're going to go here. We're all set in. We're locked in. And it's great. By all means, it's a beautiful strategy. It's beautiful ideas. I've got one of his books, right back here, the $100 million offer. My issue is we don't need any more training or knowledge or information out here. We don't need any more, I don't want to say gimmicks, strategies, gimmicks. We don't need all that. We need action and execution. We need people to sit here and actually execute on all of the tons of content that they're seeing and the tons of content that they're getting and all the trainings and, we hear about it all the time in the personal development space. But you go to these self-help seminars, these talks, these things that are uplifting and are big events, and everybody's feeling the vibes and feeling the juices, and rightfully so. They're great. They're most of them are well done, really well. Especially if you go like to a Tony Robbins event. I've never been myself, but I've heard nothing but great things about it. I've been to a few of them myself. I've been to a lot of Apex events, Ryan Stewman's group. I'm a part of Apex, love Apex. I love the people in there and the value that I've gotten. And, I've seen some really good speakers, man. Some of actually the best in the world. I've seen Goggins, Ed Milet, Eric Thomas, all on the same show or same event. And you get all these feel goods and everything, and you network and you have all these great things, but then you go home, right? And you don't implement none of the shit that you're learning. And that's a big issue. That's a big issue when, you're spending this money and the sacrifice to go, and then you're not implementing it and executing it. For me, if I spent that kind of money, and it's not a lot, but to some people it is, you're looking at, anywhere from, $3,000 to $5,000 to go to some of these events, right? That's airfare, hotel, food. You want to get anything, buy some merch swag, have some fun afterwards, and the actual tickets to the event, depending on what tier you get. If I'm sitting here spending $4,000 or $5,000, 2, 3, 4 times a year to go to these events, and I'm coming home empty-handed, and I'm not implementing into any of the information or the systems and the processes and all the things that I'm learning, that's going to be a real tough conversation my wife and I are going to have. She's going to be like, yo, dude, what are you doing? You going out here, lollygagging with hookers and fucking blow or something? Like, what's going on here, dude? You know what I mean? And it's like, I have to come back with some sort of takeaways and actionable items to make sure that I'm getting the bang for my buck and the sacrifice of leaving work. You got to take off a lot of times during the middle of the week. So me leaving work like that and leaving my culture and, leaving, our group and things like that, my gym, my primary business, you know what I mean, is not in the space where, I could be absent for long periods of times and expect the same kind of production or growth that we're experiencing now. We've done really well. We're growing exponentially each year, each quarter. And, a lot of that's due to the stage of where my business is at and where my commitment level and presence is known while I'm here. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? People want to be around the guy or the gal or whoever is the person that's the visionary, the captain. They want to be around the coach. They want to be around the fighters. They want to be around the guys and the gals that are doing their thing. I also can't leave, the Maryland and Delaware group that I, recruit and coach for as well. Brandon Brittingham's team, we can't leave that group either because, you go 1 week out and you're backed up, and then God forbid you want to do something on your personal time or you have somebody sick in your family or something like that. You're only just creating more of a pile of, appointments and recruit times. I can go on a list of the nightmares that you'll come back to. But if I'm leaving these cultures and leaving these places and I'm spending all this money and I'm not coming back and executing the information that I'm being taught, then what the fuck are we doing it for? What are we doing out here if we're not taking the stuff that we're being taught and implement it? And what's crazy to me is that so many people, go to these conferences just for the conference high. They're almost like groupies, you know what I mean? And I get it, you know what I mean? Like they are fun, they are enjoyable. You do get to meet with people that you normally don't see on a regular basis, or you might bring your team out there, or your family out there, and you enjoy, mini vacation. Yeah, of course. But, we don't need any more trainings or any more gimmicks or any more tactics. We need to get to work. We need to execute. This is going to be a really pivotal next couple of years, right? Especially, I think, at the end of this year, 25, and all of 26. This is, I don't care what anybody tries to tell you or any report, we are in a recession. You know what I mean? We're still in a recession, like the money, the value of the dollar is extremely low. Jobs are there, but they're not. We're in a space, we're in a really weird space. And it is coming off of, how the last administration handled and what the administration now, and I'm not going to get all political, but these big decisions that the people in charge make affect us. Even more importantly, the people in your own market, the politicians and the lawmakers, their decisions affect you even more. You can get distracted with all the campaigning and stuff on TV with the presidential races and things like that. And, blue versus red and all that shit, I think it's important to pay attention to. I think it's foolish to get sucked into it and let that change the way that you behave on a daily basis. And personally, my political views, I'm center right. You know what I mean? That's what I believe in. And honestly, to be honest, like I really don't want to talk to anybody that's not center right or center left, because it's just so far down each spectrum and each pendulum of, just sometimes nonsense that, you're just like, what are we doing here? I feel like I believe that the people center right and center left are more in the commonality of, hey, let's hear both sides out, figure this stuff out. But we're not going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about these decisions impact you, and you can get distracted with that stuff. But more importantly, the local politics are what's most important that you really want to pay attention to as well, because those are the people that, have to go into the community and shake your hand and smile, and you have to see. They're the ones that are fighting for you in your own community. And this is a time where, it's going to take a lot of resilience, a lot of hard work, a lot of action and implementation to not only survive, but excel while everyone's scared and distracted and focusing on what they don't have, right? It's funny, back when I was in the game, man, I had it was a long time ago, but I had a series of unfortunate events. One of my guys that got hit and locked up, and, he had owed me, a substantial amount of money. And then because of that happening, I had, kind of panicked a little bit. And, I know this is like not the stuff I'm trying to really promote on Champ Talk, but you know, what happened is what happened, and this is what it is. So, you know, look, I pay for this. Nobody pays me to do this. So, you know, I'm going to just give value where I can. And, you know, one of my, I emptied out my stash house, and I kind of had my place on the go, and I had it at a spot that wasn't necessarily the most stashable friendly place to have it. And 3 days later, you know, it got hit, and I got hit for a substantial amount of marijuana. And so now I'm hit from the one of my guys, you know, double or 5 digits, and now I'm hitting another, you know, high 5 digits. And then through that next couple of weeks, a series of person after person after person had messed up the money. They fucked the money up, right? So, you know, I look up and I'm 80 grand in the hole of street money, legal money. You know what I mean? This was a long time ago. The statute of limitations have already exceeded me. And, you know, again, I paid my time and I've done. And what's my point? So it's the first time I've ever really been in the red, you know what I mean, in my own and with my connect at the time. And I had a really good relationship with that person. And we were talking and stuff. And every time, you know, that person would hear me talk, I'd be like, you know, when I get this money from this person, when I collect my money from that person, and, you know, when I get this and when I get that. And, you know, he was just basically like, bro, you're so focused on money that you don't have and that you've lost, that it's not giving you the ability to make the money out there that you need to go get. And, you know, at that time, hearing that from one of my peers was like a punch in the dick, man. Like, it was like, oh, God's sakes, you just hit me right in my mouth. I have no rebuttal. I have no excuse. You're right. I'm focusing on the negative. I'm focusing on what I'm never going to get back or what's in what's gone, opposed to focusing on the positive and going after, you know, my work and getting money. And I know that was a harsh example to give, considering that, you know, that was in, you know, a world that, you know, I no longer promote, I'm no longer involved in, and I don't think anybody should be in it, but that was the life that I was in. But that reality and that lesson carried me over in a lot of other things, especially in business, and especially in, you know, when it come to getting money. When it come to getting money, you know, if you're sitting here worried about money you don't have, or worried about money that you've lost, or that somebody owes you or something like that, you're not giving enough room for the focus and the attention to go out here and go get some of the positive money. And there's plenty of money out here. I just heard today in the fitness industry, there's $240 billion estimated this year that's going to be made off the fitness industry. $240 billion. You know, if you guys want to get the common person, most people don't understand what $1 billion is. You hear buzzwords on rap music and all that stuff, and every other influencer, every other, you know, business guru, you know, says $1 billion, $1 billion, $1 billion. But when you think about billion, I always break it down like this. 1 million seconds is roughly 12 to 13 days. You don't have to fact check me. I'm not quite totally on, but it's roughly 12 to 13 days. 1 billion seconds is 33 years, roughly. And when you think about the time comparison with money, I mean, that's a lot of money. $249 billion is available and is estimated for the fitness industry. So for me, that's a lot of market share that I want to eat up. I want a lot of that. I'm going after a lot of that. I'm not worried about what I lost last year or what I lost this year. Obviously, you pay attention to P&Ls and all that stuff, but I want that market cap. I want to be, you know, let me get 10%. Let me get 1% of that. And we're talking some substantial life-changing money. So it's important that you focus on the implementation and the execution, because you don't need any more new ideas. Do you need some polishing? Do you need some coaching? Yes, of course, but you need to implement what you're doing right now. Right now. It's easy. Show up to work every day, work your fucking ass off, don't quit. Simple as that. Have a white belt mentality where you're always a student of the game and you're always willing to learn. Build a great culture, a great team, you know what I mean? And always look for new talent. It's it. You have to master sales. You have to master marketing. Then you have to master hiring and training and firing, I guess so. You have to master leadership development. These are the things that you have to master, and there's levels to this shit, right? And I don't mean levels like I'm gonna level up. I mean, literally level 1 is mastering marketing and sales. Simple as that. Simple as that. Marketing and sales. You got to be able to get people in the door. You got to be able to sell them. Simple as that, right? And most people want these gimmicks. Most business owners want to try to go out here and do these gimmicks. Or the other side is you're so stuck in being a operator and being the person that's constantly doing the work that you don't want to step outside and become, the person who has to go and make it happen. The real true visionary, right? The real person that's really going together and putting together bigger deals and bigger plays for your businesses, for your family, for the people that you employ, for the people that you feed their families. Like there's levels to this shit. And level one is sales and marketing. And level two is, again, hiring and lead and training. And we're so looking, we're just wired this way. We're always looking for the next hack, you know what I mean? Or the next quick flip or the next, and mind you, there's been some really profitable ideas out there and some very profitable things that have made people a lot of money. But when you look at it, it still comes down to the same basics. It's fundamental. You got to go out here and you got to work your ass off and outwork your competition and sit here and be smart with your money. And again, you have to just continue to implement and execute the knowledge that you're getting. Being all on Alex Harmon's dick because he sold $80 million of books and, he's done all this. That's very impressive. It's awesome. Shout out to him. I don't know the guy. Shout out to him. Very impressive. But not taking anything that he's doing and implementing it immediately is a detriment to your business. It's a detriment to why even mention his name. It's like when you go to church on Sundays, right? You know what I mean? But you smell like, last night's liquor and last night's pussy. You know what I mean? Let's be honest, right? But you go to church the next day and not because you feel good about, you want to wash your sins, but this is like your repeat everything. Or the minute you leave church, you're beating your kids or, cussing your wife or, acting like you're a fucking maniac or a fool. Like, what's the point? What is God just going to magically make you better? No, it's going to be a series of things that you're going to have to go through that God's going to put in front of you that hopefully wakes your dumb ass up to makes you want to go implement new strategies in the teachings of the Bible or the Quran or whatever you're praying to of how to live life and how to do what you're supposed to do. And it's important. Execution is vital. There's a lot of people at bars right now, and I'm not trying to give shit to the service industry. My daughter's there; they're in the service industry. I'm not trying to give shit, but there's a lot of people in bars right now that started off waiting tables or bartending, and they're sitting here say the same thing. Yeah, when I'm gonna, I can't wait. Once this happens, I'm gonna. They wake up and it's 20 years later and they're still at the same bar, the same industry, doing the same things. Never getting around to the I'm gonnas. Ocean City, Maryland is just flooded with them. Those kinds of people, and again, I'm not trying to give them shit. I'm just saying there's so many people sitting at that bar as well on the other end of the on the other side of it, with the same things. I'm going to do this, and once I do that, and all these great ideas, and all these I'm going to do these things, but yet they keep showing up to that bar every single happy hour or every single weekend. They never implement nothing. They never go after it. So they wait and they hesitate because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. And then once they're given the information or the knowledge, they don't take action on that either. Who are you? What is it that you want to accomplish? Who is it that you want to become? What is it that you want to do? These are important questions that a lot of us get confused and forget to ask. I talk to a lot of young people, man. I talk to a lot of young people on a regular, man. And, it's funny because the gym is in my opinion, a personal development space here at the combat sports side, our gym, SBY MMA and Fitness. And the cool thing you've heard me talk about, we're rent space and associated with Pure Family Fitness, which is the big, fitness club, you know what I mean? People come here for personal development. So in that, when you come for personal development, a part of that growth is talking about what you're trying to do, where you're going, coming in and talking about where you're from and how impactful it is to go and do jiu-jitsu or go do kickboxing or, go lift weights or, do circuit training. It's impactful because you're coming to get better. You're building community with other people who are in the same boat. So now the paths are starting to become very similar and they're crossing the same way every day. So, I talk to a lot of young people that, they're so like lost on who they are and what they want to do and where they're supposed to go. I personally think that when you're in your 20s, you should, this is my belief, you know what I mean? Branden Hudson, nobody else's. I believe that if you're going to go to college, right, you should go to college under 3 reasons. 1, you should go to college if you know for sure exactly what you want to do. And, again, I'm not giving no shit here, but I'm gonna call a spade. You know, probably fucking performing arts ain't gonna be the career that's gonna make you the money, or some other weird fucking major that, you know what I mean, you find out that you can't do shit with when you grow or when you graduate, but you've been told that this is the way, right? So, you know, if you know you want to be a doctor, you know you want to be a lawyer, you know you want to be an accountant, you know you want to, you know, some of these professional positions that require that 100%, you know what I mean? Boom, go to college, right? If you want to go to college because you're kind of in the gray area and you don't really know what you want to do, but you don't want to sit around and you don't want to get trapped into your hometown, then you need to go to the community college or whatever college and get your general studies out. And hopefully you don't have too much overhead and too much money that you know, too much debt, right? You're trying to be smart about your moves. I don't believe in collecting a lot of fucking unnecessary college debt and falling into that Ponzi scheme. I don't believe that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? Just for fucking some, you know, performing arts degree, or, you know, some poetry degree or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out there, but shit that ain't gonna fucking yield you no return. Doesn't make sense. You know, or if you have an opportunity, like my cousin, you know, he's an alumni in WVU, so he had the opportunity to go to WVU. You know what I mean? On you know, really affordable, you know, a Division I school, on an affordable base income, and you know what I mean? It was the experience. It was 6 hours away from our hometown. He got to have that college experience. He found himself. He became independent. You know, he made his mistakes. He made his triumphs. He was able to do what he needed to do and grow as a man. It's fared him well in life. My cousin's very successful. He does very good things. So, you know what I mean? If those are the three reasons you're going to college, 100%. If you're just going to go to college and rack up a bunch of different, no, don't do it. But when you're in your 20s, young people, right? Then you should experience life. Go move. Go do this. Go do that. Try out new things. Don't go out and buy a fucking, you know, a $50,000 vehicle because you got credit. Don't rack up a bunch of debt. I do personally believe in buying a home. I think you should buy a home at any age, because I think it's a great way to build assets over time, and you can get creative with those deals. You know, you hear some of the guys I listen to, they'll talk about, you know, real estate isn't that much of an investment compared to stocks. Per the graph at the last 100 years, you do have usually a double-digit return with stocks, and very rarely you get past 5 or 6% on real estate. The difference maker is the tax benefits that you get, especially if you're a business owner, and also how creative you can get with deals and how you can utilize cash flow with real estate. It's a big difference. You can't really utilize cash flow like you want to in the beginning with stocks. You certainly can with real estate. So I think that it's always a good play that if you can buy a house early as a young person, that you get that. You rent the 2 bedrooms out to, you know, some buddies, you know what I mean? And then they pay the mortgage until you can get to the space where you can go and upgrade, utilize that house to, you know, be a rental, and you rinse and repeat and say, you just keep doing this process until you build up a nice portfolio. And then you can kind of figure out what you want to do as you're living life, as you're just doing you. You buy a townhouse in our area and say you want to move, you can rent that thing out, give it to let a property management company handle it, and then you could go out wherever you want to go and buy another house or rent a place or however you want to run your business, right? Or run your life. But it's important in your 20s, you should experience life and experience different things, whether it's the military, whether it's college, whether it's just going to work, learning a trade. Go live your life and experience things. So you don't need to know who you are or what you want to do. If it's great that you do, if you do know that, but you don't have to. It's not something that's required. You're supposed to be finding yourself as an adult. You've been a kid, quote unquote. You've been labeled a kid. Well, you have been, but you've been labeled a kid for the past 18 years. Do you think you're supposed to know, young people, what you want to do in the next 2 to 5 or even 10? It doesn't work like that. Go live life. But I hear that conversation a lot. I hear a lot of people that, you know, are in their 30s and 40s that are kind of scared and to make a move or intimidated to go and do something differently than what they've done before, like or scared to, you know, get out of a bad situation, or scared to quit their job and start following their dreams and following their hearts. A lot of times because they didn't experience life in their 20s, or they had words are going away from me. Not a great deck of cards dealt with them, right? But you know what I mean? Unfavorable. That was the word I was thinking of. But yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time. You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, you know, when you hit about 30 years old and plus, you know better now. You know, you're still young enough to have some fun and do you, but you're old enough to know better. So now you're starting to dial in that aim and that direction a little bit. And again, this is for the people that are just figuring it out, that don't have a clear-cut path to what they want to do in life or a clear-cut vision on what it is. You're experiencing different things to figure out what you want to do. And it's a beautiful thing when you let life just be life. You hear about people that get engaged, right? Or they become boyfriend and girlfriend, and then they get engaged in like 2 years, and then they get married in a year. It's like, I wanted to enjoy all those stages of my relationship. I wanted to enjoy the honeymoon phase of a brand new relationship where, everything's perfect from each other. And you guys are just living it up to, where you guys got in the trenches and started finding more about each other and finding out, what you're willing to accept over the flaws and over the good things, right? And then when you do finally get ready to propose, how much time do you have and how stable and how much of a foundation do you have? And this is for me. I don't say this is for everybody. Some people know right away. But, a majority of the people that rush in, rush out. And then, when I got engaged to my wife, I wanted to stay engaged for a while. I wanted to enjoy being a fiance, enjoy that process, take our time. It worked out beautifully because we actually got hit with COVID while we were engaged and we were locked down. And then what we did was during that whole lockdown process and the rebuild of the society, we took advantage of these promo codes that Hawaii was given because Hawaii's tourism was suffering tremendously because of COVID. And we went to literally, it was a hack in the hell. We literally went and got married in Hawaii. I flew first class all on credit card points, back there and back, and the hotel room was on credit card points. We paid minimal to anything for our stay. We stayed 10 days. We got married in Honolulu, and then we went to Maui for the last 3 days or 4 days for our honeymoon, and it was a trip of a lifetime. Those who could made it with our family made it. Those who couldn't, they got to stream it. And it was just a friends and family thing of about 14, 15 of us, and it was like the trip of a lifetime. I cannot wait to go back. But my point is, you know what I mean? We enjoyed those phases of our relationship so that we could sit here and have opportunities, that doors open that we never thought were ever possible. So there's not a lot of more training and strategies and gimmicks that most people need. Most people are only operating at a 10 to 8% level of what they have in the fire. They could be doing so much more and operating and executing on so much more. Go back to your business plan. Go back to your business model. If it's not business, go back to your life plan. Go back to your relationship plan. Go back to your church. Go back to your whatever you're doing right now. Go back and see how much you're leaving on the table that you're not implementing and executing. And this will give me a good time to segue. First of all, we want to thank our sponsor, SPY MMA and Fitness, the fastest growing #1 combat sports on the Eastern Shore. Been voted best of for the past 4 years running, best of coastal style. So we've been voted by our peers. So we just want to give a shout out. Guys looking to get into combat sports or looking for tips or anything like that, holla at me. We can get you guys set right up. But this is a good time to segue into, the coaches and the mentor conversation. And this is something that I've been struggling with. I've had a couple of mentors and coaches in my life, right? Most of my coaches were real coaches, like combat sports, like you get them rock, you in your corner. That kind of coaches that I've learned a lot from. I've had a ton of great coaches, man, in my life. You know what I mean? Some I don't even speak to anymore, whether it's a time thing or just things that broke down. But, I've had, and I'll still give them their props because they deserve it. I've had, my very first coach was Trevor Howard. You know what I mean? He got me into combat sports. He was a peer of mine and was teaching me martial arts and teaching me how to lose weight. And it pivoted and snowballed into something I never thought. That's when I met my favorite coach of all, because he's been with me the longest. And me and him are fucking deviants as well. But that's Eric Evans. He's been my greatest mentor, one of my greatest friends, greatest coach. He's been everything I've ever had, and a friend and a mentor coach. He works with us here. He's still around. Awesome guy. Dante Finney. I've had, both these guys on the podcast. It's been great having those guys on here and stuff like that, and having them in my life. I've been so blessed. That Jim Willie was another one. Shout out to Jim Willie. He was a great mentor and coach and taught me a lot of really good stuff in martial arts. It taught me a lot of good stuff at life. You know what I mean? Just gave me that like toughness that I needed in like the perspective sense. I was already a tough guy physically, but perspective wise, he was, this guy's a freaking, a Marine. He's been in combat. He's been in martial arts. He's the real deal. Professor Miles, Scoochie Moffat's been a great mentor of mine. He's my jiu-jitsu coach, and somebody's given me what I need from there. Demont Giddens, Demont and I don't speak anymore, but I still got massive love for him in my heart, and wish him all the best. But unfortunately, we just not on the same page. But he was my boxing coach. He was a great mentor, great coach of mine, great friend of mine. You know what I mean? I looked up to him a lot and respected what he did, and he was brilliant in his approach. We had him. There's just been so many good coaches along the way. Rick Desper was a coach of mine who helped me win championships, and 2 of them, and was like there in the beginning. He came from another gym, just randomly walked in one day, and we just clicked and vibed right away. And he was an awesome coach. I don't mean to run down the line of coaches. There's probably many more, and I'm sorry if I forgot to mention you that I have that I'd love to shout out. But these were the guys that were so impactful in my journey, especially in the beginning. Carmelo Guerrero was another good one. I want to mention him real quick. These guys were so impactful and important for me for so long. You know what I mean? And those were the coaches that I was used to. But now you've got like these internet coaches and these guru coaches and, all these professional coaches. And, my mentors now, I would have to say that Branden Brittingham is one of my mentors, and Nick Tagapor. Brandon's at the real estate office, and Nick's here at the gym. He owns the box gym. And these guys they're my friends, they're my peers, but they also, they're playing at levels that I'm not yet. And to be able to see behind the curtain and be able to learn and find out what what it is to do that I'm learning. It's, to help me grow in business it's been great. It's been completely beneficial on both ends. And, I wouldn't trade what I have. And Ryan Stewman, I got to give a shout out to Ryan. Ryan, is not necessarily my direct coach or anything, but I'm in his Apex program, and he's, there's the training that he's provided and the things that he's shown me and done. I don't always agree with Ryan and how he goes at certain issues, but that's what makes us human, and that's what makes us awesome, is that we have differences and we have difference of opinions, and we're not fucking fanboys just like, oh yeah, show me everything. But Ryan's been really good for me and what I've seen, and it's been a big level up since I've been in Apex for almost 5 years. What am I getting at? What's my point? Naming all these people you guys have no fucking clue where they are, or you might do, but Branden gets to the point. My point is my mentors and coaches are kind of like in proximity, right? I'm struggling going out here and hiring a coach. I'm struggling going out here and talking to a therapist. I'm struggling going out here and hiring a mentor, somebody to help me, because, and I'm not saying that they're all like this. My point is like, bro, like, majority of the ones you see are liars. They're fucking liars. They're lying on the internet. They're ripping people off. They're doing all of these things that you see that is like now coming to fruition. That like, dude, I can't get behind somebody and feel faith in the learning from somebody and growing from somebody if you don't have the receipts, or if you're fucking ripping people off, or you're not, or you're living one way in the shadows and another way in the light. Like, I struggle with that notion, right? I've got the money to hire a coach. I actually want to hire a coach. Don't flood my DMs with a bunch of fucking marketing shit. But at the end of the day, what are we going to talk about? Like, a therapist, a lot of the therapists are in my hometown. Like, I'm not trying to shit on any therapists out there that are in my hometown, or any, but I know you. I know your baggage. I know the shit that you do. Like, I'm a popular guy in our area. I know a lot of people, you know what I mean? And word gets around fast. And, also, like, you're not playing at the same level with me. And I know this sounds cocky and conceited. What are you going to tell me that is going to apply to me? It's like when you go to the doctor and you're a high-performing entrepreneur, you're very super healthy and you're staying on top of everything. Your doctor wants to treat you like the thousands of people that don't do the work. It's very frustrating and disheartening when you're trying to, get to a place where you want to go. And I don't believe in just venting my frustrations, keep coming back and being a vent. I need tools, I need processes, I need systems, I need things. I'm not a disbeliever of therapy. I'm not a disbeliever of hiring a mentor or a coach. But right now, I've just not found anybody that either A, I can afford, or makes sense for the level that I'm at, or B, that I trust. And that's big for me. Like, who do you trust? Who do you trust in this industry? Who's going to be the one that's going to be authentic and not just view you as a number? Or who's going to be the one that's going to be, really let you know why and who they really are when they're coaching you, that they got issues too, but this is how they get over them. And I'm sure they're out there. And why I bring that up is when we talk about the execution side of it, you know what I mean? For me, I'd rather just execute on the stuff that I'm not executing on and on the information that I've learned that I'm not putting into play than go out here and hire 5 fucking different coaches to hear me tell 5 different things for more information, for more stuff dumping on me that I'm still not putting into practice anyway. Like, save your money. Save your money. A lot of people want me to get into the coaching space. A lot of people want me to start, a coaching program. And, for me, it's just like, I don't know, man. I've been a coach as far as like in the MMA world for so long. I struggle with the results. If you're not putting in the work and you're not implementing on what I give you, then the fuck I want to do it for? So I can make a bunch of money? Yeah, that's great, right? But my mission is to improve the quality of life for everyone around me through mindset and fitness. So if I'm not doing that, I don't feel good about taking your money. You see what I'm saying? I don't feel good about that kind of avenue of where I'm going to take your money. And I'll tell you something else. I don't necessarily think my receipts match it yet. I'm still on the grind, right? I'm still on my quest, you know what I mean, to do a couple of bigger things. I don't view myself as having the receipts or having the status right now and the capital in my bank account right now or revolving to sit here and say, I'll take you as a coaching client. I'm still figuring it out myself, right? A lot of coaches don't think that way. A lot of coaches are, trying to teach you how to become a millionaire when they only know how to make 100,000 or 200,000, right? A lot of people are trying to teach you how to make $10 million, but they've never broke $1 million. A lot of people are telling you, it's like when divorced or single people with no kids try to tell you how to relationship advice and how to raise kids. Like, I ain't trying to hear that shit, bro. Like, but they'll be the first ones to get a coaching program and swear they're experts. Like, okay, great. But once you're in the trenches, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know how to deal with a person that you have opposite personalities of. You don't know how to deal with children if you've never done it. Like, you gotta have the receipts, right? So, I'd love to get into a coaching space. I'm sure one day, maybe, possibly, I'm thinking about it. But at the same time, it's also one of those things like, my time is so valuable and I don't have those receipts. I don't necessarily think it's the timing right now. You know what I mean? Others disagree. Others think that they should jump in the game and start collecting thousands of dollars from people, putting on events before they even have their receipts. You know what I mean? And I know so many of them out there. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from personal development or getting a coach or whatever, because even if that person, even if you sign up with somebody who is a fucking cheese dick, right? And they didn't necessarily, live up to the standards. If you got value from them and they were able to give you knowledge and stuff like that, then that's a great takeaway. You go to a seminar that you spend $5,000 to go to, and 95% of the information is shit that, fluff or stuff that you've already heard or doesn't apply to you. But you get one piece of nugget for the other 5% that ends up changing the whole trajectory of your business or your life, then that money's well spent, well invested. And that $5,000 investment in yourself could yield you, 5X, 10X, 20X the return if you implement that and take that piece of knowledge and put it to play. And I think there's plenty of information out there. You can go AI, you could go Google, you could go, you could go to a mentor, you could go to somebody, you're probably working with a mentor right now. When I was working with Matt Miller over at Ursula Miller's Body Shop, I didn't realize he was my mentor. I thought he was my boss. I didn't realize he was showing me the ins and outs of business, the ins and outs of being a good Christian and a good person of God, or a good man or a good provider. I didn't realize it. I didn't know that's what he was doing, but that's what he was doing by proxy. I'm just in here saying, yes, boss, whatever you need me to do, boss, but I'm learning and I'm listening and I'm growing. And it wasn't until later on in my career, I was like, oh, wow, like I'm not very bad at I'm pretty good at my job. You know what I mean? Like, I know how to make money. I know how to talk to many different people and make sure that everybody has the same commonality, that they all make money or save money if you're the insurance company. Great. And that was a value tool. So if you're looking for mentorship, then you're probably sitting right there next to somebody, you don't even realize it, right? You're probably sitting right next to somebody who's pouring a lot into you and trying to give you all that they've got and show you all they can, and being very genuine, very authentic, and you're probably dismissing it as if they're your boss or they're your supervisor. They're somebody that's just around you every day, and you're not slowing down to realize that you have that right at your disposal, right at your fingertips. But I struggle with, hiring somebody and believing some of these fucking influencers, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm not an influencer. I'm influential, but I'm not an influencer. You know what I mean? I'm a person that just gets on here and tries to provide value for you guys. I've never asked you for any money. I've never asked you to join my coaching program or my mastermind. I've never asked any of this. I just want to continue, or I'm just continuing to give value and deliver because I want to see you win, right? I want to see you win. I had a fucking fanboy or whatever hop up on my social media and start talking about all this dumb shit not too long ago. Oh, my eyes are so dry. Sorry if you're seeing those cameras. Sorry for all the blinking. But yeah, he started jumping on this on one of my posts the other day and talking all this fanboy shit. And you know what I mean? It's like, bro, like, you know, even him, I want to just set the whole thing on fire and just, you know, set him on his way. But even him, you know, you gotta have grace with some of these people, especially if you know them. You know what I mean? Like, I know the guy. You know what I mean? But you gotta have grace with some of these people. You know what I mean? Before you just destroy them or just flame them, right? And, you know, not all the time. If it's too bad, then fuck him. But, you know, it wasn't too bad. He was just, you know, I probably just woke up on the wrong side of bed. He's probably hurting for money. You know what I mean? He's probably going through life and seeing somebody shining. And, you know, he's struggling with that, right? But might have been because we talked about my beliefs on COVID and he didn't agree. And now he's fucking, I don't know why. But either way, you know, if my mission is to improve the quality of life for everyone with mindset and fitness, then I can't leave him out. You know what I mean? Even if I don't fucking care for him or don't like what he said, I can't leave him out. Everybody's got to be impacted. So I don't ask people to join my masterminds because I don't have one. I don't ask anybody to join my coaching program because I don't have one. I just deliver on a daily basis or weekly basis, constant content to help you grow and become the best and greatest version of yourself. That's it. That's it. What will it turn into? Who knows? Maybe I'll have a podcast, or maybe I do have a podcast. Maybe I'll have a mastermind. Maybe I'll have a coaching program. Maybe I'll do some events. Who knows, right? But for now, you know, I'm on the quest. And for now, I'm taking action and I'm implementing and executing on the things that I've learned, and not just the stuff that's working. You have to execute on all of it. You have to give it all a shot. You have to try. We have a very long life. You know, anybody says life is short, it's the longest thing you ever do. We have a very long life. You know what I mean? So we have time in the box where we're going to be, you know, showing up day in and day out, you know what I mean? Working at our jobs, building our empires, building our relationships. So there's not a shortage on what you can implement in your life. You know what I mean? Whether it's personally, business, professionally, relationship, all the above. Implement, execute, show up every day, work your ass off, and don't quit. You know, and then you'll see the doors and the opportunities open outside of that. But I'm glad you guys joined me for this podcast, man. I wanted to kind of just get on the mic. I did a little bit of rambling, but wanted to give you guys some insight. You know, if you're needing some sort of help or tips, or, you know, you have any questions or whatever, shoot me a DM, dude. I manage the pages myself. I love to talk to people. I love to hear what you have to say. You know, again, like and subscribe to channels if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated. Leave a review. But, you know, if I can help you guys with anything or whatever have you, shoot me a DM, or you want me to speak on your stage, you know what I mean? Message me. I'd love to help you guys in any way that I can to deliver value so that you guys can grow and become, you know, the greatest versions of yourselves. Till next time, guys, what are you doing today to become a champion?